hoping you can, yeah, lovely. Excellent, you can hear me. Hello, apologies for the slightly delayed start. I'm just making sure you could all hear us, because if you couldn't hear us, this was going to be a bit like a mime show, really, which I don't think any of us have really turned up for today. So, welcome to our session. It's the future of e-commerce, top trends and strategies for success. My name's Chloë Thomas. I'm the host of the eCommerce MasterPlan podcast, the Keep Optimizing podcast, and various other bits and pieces. And I'm here to ask the questions of our panelists today. Let's face it, an awful lot is changing in e-commerce at the moment. So that's why we wanted to talk to you today about what you can do to set yourself up for success, not just this year, but into the years to come. So that's what we're going to be running through with you today. Our brilliant panelists are David from SHOPLINE and Marianne from Baaj Capital and In The Style, and I'm going to ask each of them to introduce themselves. So, David, could you tell our audience a little bit more about yourself and SHOPLINE, please?
Yeah, thanks, Chloe. My name's David. I'm the head of partnerships and solutions at SHOPLINE. SHOPLINE is Asia's leading e-commerce platform. We call it smart commerce. It's a modern commerce platform with a really, really rich nature feature set of loads of suites of functionalities. We've got 500,000 customers like In The Style and really cool brands that sell online and want to target their customers. And we launched in Europe on the 1st of April.
There we go. And Marianne, could you please tell us a little bit about yourself, Baaj Capital, and In The Style, please?
I'll try and keep it quick. My name's Marianne. I'm the investment director at Baaj Capital, who have a growing portfolio of e-commerce businesses, a combination of in-store and online. And our online strategy is something that we're reviewing heavily with SHOPLINE and a number of our portfolio companies, of which In The Style is one. We've been migrating to SHOPLINE, which goes live next week. And we've incorporated a lot of data analytics, growth metrics based on our business performance and improvements as a result of the migration, which we'll hopefully get into a little bit more today.
Excellent. So now you know who our panelists are. Let's get into why it's so important that we're all considering these trends and strategies at the moment. So there are many tough challenges that e-commerce brands are facing at the moment. What should the brands be looking to overcome in the coming years? Whilst I'm there answering that question, can I please have the handheld mic? And I'm going to go over there because I can't actually hear their answers, which is going to make this really convoluted. So, David, Marianne, if you could give us your answer to what you think the challenges are at the moment, I'll be over with you in a second.
No problem. Do you want me to start? So I think, I've got a very mixed experience myself where I've developed two e-com D2C brands online, and I understand from a business owner perspective how challenging the landscape is when you're a startup company or a small company. And I also have worked with a portfolio of large growing e-commerce businesses who've got a different set of challenges online. And as a result of COVID, the landscape's changed forever, I think, in the e-com, where it offers a bigger opportunity than it did previously. It was always growing, it was always evolving. And it's become more impacted as a result of the economic climate at the moment. And it's harder for brands to grow, it's harder for brands to predict profitability, it's harder for brands to sustain through all of the various changes in the landscape. So from a business perspective, your business plan's always changing, your financial landscape's always changing, your data set's always changing. And it comes back to the core of your brand, who you are, what you want to be and where you want to go, and understand what that roadmap looks like for you, and then how you incorporate the technologies and strategic decisions you need to make along the way. There isn't one answer, unfortunately, and we've evolved a number of strategies with SHOPLINE support for a number of brands who offer different products to different markets for different reasons, and we can't cover all of those reasons, unfortunately, in a 20-minute talk. But we will be at the SHOPLINE stand today and tomorrow for anyone who wants to come and have a more detailed discussion on any of those topics.
And we're going to be getting into some of those solutions very shortly. First off though, David, what would you say the challenges are that you're seeing brands dealing with at the moment?
I think there's lots of buzzwords, and the biggest trend at the moment everyone in this room will be talking about is AI, right? Like everyone's talking about AI, how it's going to affect how every single part of a brand trades online, every single area. So everyone's talking about that, but it's a huge challenge for how brands actually will grow and merchandise their stores. Like at the moment, e-commerce platforms are built to have a listing page, a category page, and that's how basically you buy stuff online, right? AI is going to change that completely, and I think that's what we're working on, and maybe we'll talk about that in a bit.
Excellent. So I would summarise what, the kind of the bits you're bringing in there is that there are so many challenges we're dealing with at the moment, and so many ways we could go about tackling those challenges. And the key thing is to work out what you actually should be doing rather than all those 1,000,001 things you could be doing. So we're going to throw up some things you could be doing now, and then I'm going to ask each of them, once we've discussed all of that, what their key thing takeaway for each of you would be, and then we're going to come to you for some questions. So please do be ready. If you've got questions, we're going to have a little bit of time for that at the end. So be ready to put your hand up when we get to that point in time. So you just outlined a whole load of challenges. What's the key things we need to do at the moment to succeed in this space? I mean, Marianne, what's top of your list at the moment?
I think understanding if you want to, where you compete in the landscape is really important. Where you are at that moment in time and where you want to be 3 months from now, 6 months from now, and 12 months from now, and what your resources are within that. Because we all want to be the next Gymshark or the next, we all want to be the next big e-com unicorn. But it's not easy, and it's, when you look at the percentage of companies who succeed on those metrics, they're very small and they're in single-digit figures. So I think you've got to have a strategy and apply your own uniqueness to that strategy. And everybody talks about USP. How do you create a USP? How do you be different in a world or an e-com environment where everybody's trying to do the same thing? When it's AI, when everybody's talking about Chat GPT, everybody's talking about AI and automation, which are all really important factors in growing a stable e-com business. But you've got to also understand what your business can manage and what you can cope with, and data, reliance on data. Data is great, and it's something I'm really, really passionate about, is data analytics, but you've got to understand the data set you're looking at and why. And again, Shopline have introduced a number of features that allow us to have a more granular level of data analytics and business informed business decision making. That is why we've partnered with them on a number of projects.
Loving this, Marianne. Loving the levels you're giving us here. Data, I totally agree. I think that's such an important one. Not that I don't agree with the rest of what you said, but definitely the data piece. David, it strikes me that we're at a bit of a tipping point at the moment where the opportunities that tech can unlock for us are pretty huge, and that there are some pretty big, blue oceans out there we could tap into rather than fighting in our very busy English market. What are you seeing people coming to you for and wanting to dive into at the moment in terms of their future success? I mean, I'm assuming you're speaking to people about social commerce, winning in Asia, these kinds of things?
Yeah, totally. Am I still working here? So we've got a really, really feature-rich set for social commerce. It's not just listing your products to TikTok, like everyone can do that, but all the subsidiary data, your comments, the likes, the impressions, affiliate marketing, really brands need to be able to pull all that data back and to create the nurture streams for email marketing, promotions. All that stuff needs to actually be used, otherwise you're just losing the orders. So I think before you go into something like AI or social commerce, all that sort of stuff, I think the best thing to do is just like test and learn and see what are you trying to achieve from TikTok and how that customer on TikTok is different to the customer on Instagram or whatever it might be. So, yeah.
So it's kind of like putting what you were both saying together. We've got to get our strategy right, we've got to get our USP right, and we've got to then, once we've got those foundations in place, then we can start taking advantage of these new opportunities that TikTok brings us, that overseas territories bring us, and make sure we're on a platform that makes it easy for us to do that.
Yeah, you can't just open up a TikTok account, sell online and make loads of money, it's all going to go viral. You can't open a warehouse in Asia and be the biggest selling fashion brand in China. Like, it's not that easy, it's really seriously difficult. So you need a team of people and you need a strategy behind how to build that.
And assuming we've got all this in place, Marianne, what's your future focus marketing channels in this space at the moment? Are there key things you're looking at from the marketing planning?
I'll focus on In the Style predominantly because that's a project that we've publicly discussed in partnering with Shopline. And I think TikTok you've mentioned, testing and learning you've mentioned, and I think TikTok's a great example. Everybody, or a high percentage of people are now on TikTok and using TikTok in their day-to-day lives, whether they're meaning to be sold to or not. And because of the type of content that's on TikTok, it engages a number of different audiences in different ways. And going back to the point that David made on testing and learning, testing and learning is so important, and I think that you can't make assumptions, test your assumptions, because it's really fascinating what you can find out when you start testing your assumptions with different creatives, different copy, different audiences. Why are you targeting why are you targeting that audience, and what do you expect to get back? What are your assumptions? And then when you test it, you might confirm your assumptions, or you might find something that you didn't know. And I think that's always a really exciting place to be. So for a business like In The Style, obviously a fashion-focused company is online. Our international growth plan is in place and is in motion, which is why we've partnered with SHOPLINE. We're a big UK fashion brand, and the growth plan is moving into international markets. And I probably need to be quiet, or I'll say too much that I'm probably not allowed to share in an open forum. So
love that. Yeah, let's stop you before you share anything you're not really supposed to.
Yeah.
I think I love the fact you mentioned testing there, because I think in these new, uncertain or changing times, doing that testing part is so crucial. And whilst you've already got a huge amount to be doing in Q4, in peak, it is when consumers are most primed to buy. So it is an amazing time to be running those tests, but do it strategically, not just any old thing.
I'd say like selling fashion online is not easy. It's not just selling hoodies or personalized t-shirts as a small business. In The Style has really complicated flows, lots of moving stock all over the place. You know, it's getting and understanding the trends for what's happening. You know, how do you spin up a landing page for Christmas and a campaign for targeting the customers who only buy a dress once a year, you know, as opposed to someone who comes back every month and buys something as a treat. You know, these are different journeys. So that's where we're moving to. And so you need the technology stack around that to get ahead of the game and advise you on how you can make more money.
I feel like we've given everyone an awful lot of things to put on their strategy list there. So what would be your kind of key takeaway? What would be your top strategy or trend for future e-commerce success? Who's ready to answer this one first?
A top trend for me would be really, I hate 3-year business plans. I think you have to have a vision, and you have to have a strategy, and you have to have a roadmap of where you're trying to go. But it's really looking at what your technology looks like now and what you can achieve in bite-sized pieces on a longer-term roadmap, because every journey starts with a step, and understanding where you want to go and how you can fit that purpose within your needs at that point in time. There's not a magic answer, I think.
I like it. So take all those many things you're learning today and tomorrow here at eCommerce Expo and make sense of them. Don't just pick the one you like the idea of most when you get back. That's what we're saying. David, your key takeaway?
I guess there's loads of vendors here, and they all specialize in a particular area, but don't go away and choose a vendor. You know, a little bit cheekily, apart from SHOPLINE, you shouldn't just go and choose a vendor, because no vendor's going to solve all your problems. You know, you need to pick a partner who can really understand the objectives of what you're trying to achieve and be able to support you in achieving that. So it's not just the tech.
Yeah, so true. When we're in challenging times, we need those good partners beside us to help us make decisions and share their knowledge with us. So, talking about sharing knowledge, we've got 2 excellent panelists here ready to take your questions. Does anybody have a question for us? Oh, we got one over here. I'll run, otherwise you won't be able to hear me. Do an Annika Rice thing. Not that ages me.
Hi guys. So the question is, a few years ago, you could just simply go on Facebook, Instagram, put a few ads and, churn, obviously, revenue over the years. But now with, iOS 14 updates and, companies cracking down on, cookies and customers opting out of tracking data, cookies and so on, what do you recommend brands to do to pivot? Because obviously ad cost is going up, as well as, the channels are becoming limited, right? In the sense that the right consumer's not being fed the correct ads. So what would you recommend in the sense of pivoting, I guess?
Cracking question. So
I can't actually hear properly, I'm so sorry.
That's all right. So basically the question is, the ads world is getting very, very competitive and messy. What would you do instead?
I think that's where you've got an opportunity to really stand out. That's where the challenge is. Customers are served 100 ads a day, 200 ads a day, depending on how much they shop and what they're looking at online and what their cookie settings are. So as a brand, how do you engage that customer? That's where if you can find a solution to that problem, you're not just trying to copy what somebody else is doing. You're not just trying to take I like that ad. If you like an ad, how can you make it relevant to your business? How can you make it relevant to stand out to your customer? And then when you think you've got an answer, test it first before you put huge amounts of budget behind it and test an alternative based on a completely opposite point of view, because sometimes in A/B testing you can be surprised at the results depending on the creative, the copy, what you hope the intention to be, and be realistic with your budget. I think a lot of people don't understand the importance of a learning phase when it comes to ad sets and investing in the learning phase because it's not profitable. So I think that
I think you have to keep ahead of the trends on ads, but actually sometimes it's about the content and being bold. You know, if you look at what some of the best brands are doing, like Burberry and like Calvin Klein, how they're targeting their customers is very different, you know, like so the content is also important, not just the infrastructure.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay, we've got time for one more question. Anyone want to ask? Okay, we've got one over here.
Hi, my question is for Marianne. I wanted to understand how has your tech stack evolved over, say, the last 1 year, and at what point of in the style's growth journey did you decide to partner with a vendor like SHOPLINE?
Cool. So,
sorry, I couldn't hear you either.
the question is, at what point in your journey within the style did you decide it was time to move on to a platform like SHOPLINE?
Great question.
Good
Perfect for
question.
David. I think in the style is a business that became successful in a different era of e-com, and as a result of that the business was built on a Magento platform. Again, I need to be careful as to what I share and why, so I'll try and answer the question in detail. What a Magento platform offers a business at that moment in time in e-commerce was bespoke creation, customization, but with that comes heavy development cost, heavy operational cost, maintenance, just because of the nature of the style of platform. And SHOPLINE is an advanced out-of-the-platform, theme-based SaaS platform, which have added a number of features relating to data analytics, granular data analytics, social media integrations, a number of more sophisticated AI-driven technologies that combined allowed us to move into a platform where we can not just move into a new platform for the sake of moving into a new platform, but strategically, I've mentioned the international footprint that we want to adopt. So from an internationalization perspective, it allowed us to move into a platform that was capable of achieving that at scale with minimal development work required, customization in the international territories with strategy attached. The functionality of the back end of SHOPLINE and what we've been able to adopt for a number of internal requirements that we've had, we've been able to customize an out-of-the-box platform in a way that I haven't experienced with another out-of-the-box theme-based platform supplier and provider. And again, we can share a little bit more detail afterwards if anyone wants to ask any more questions.
I think not every website should look the same, right? And I think that's the other thing.
Absolutely.
An e-commerce platform is not just an order-taking system, you know? It needs to be able to help you target your customers, sell more online. So that's the vision. And it needs the ability to give brands the ability to make websites look unique and really target those customers properly.
Okay, that's all the time we've got left for questions. I'm sure, knowing you're an e-commerce audience, I am sure you have got lots of questions you want to ask individually of David and Marianne. So we're all about to head over to the SHOPLINE stand, which is just over there. You can't really miss it because it's got a big SHOPLINE banner hanging over the top of it. And whilst you're there, we'll all be there to answer your questions one-on-one. You can get yourself a demo of the software, and they've got a stack of my books that I signed this morning that are freely available to the first people to get over there. There's one less than there was earlier because Marianne's already nabbed one, but there's still a fair few there. So we'll see you over on the SHOPLINE stand very soon. Thank you, everybody.